In this episode 14, we will be looking at a topic called name. What is a name? These topics may sound so small, and we all may think, we know about this. Name is a name. What is in that? All these topics in this and the earlier 13 topics, though they looks very small or insignificant, and even the forthcoming topics, they are all very important. They form the basis of our lives. So they are so important that unless you understand them, your whole basis of living may be wrong and may affect your life greatly, leading to a wrong path. You can still live like that, but if you are interested, if you are deeply thoughtful about your life, what your life is, and how to go about it, these are all important. So today we will discuss the topic, what is in a name? What is in a name? For many of us, name may mean everything: attachment, prestige, identity, etc. But for some, it may not mean much. Let us read the lines from Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet. Juliet says to Romeo, what is in a name? A rose is a rose. That which we call, what is in a name? That is what Juliet says to Romeo. That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. That is right. If you call a rose by any other name, also it would continue to give a pleasant smell. But other people have a different opinion. Gratitude Strain has something different in his poem Sacred Emily. These lines have become so famous throughout the world. His lines are, rose is a rose is a rose is a rose. This is a line. A rose is a rose is a rose, because he stresses that a rose is a rose is a rose is a rose. First, let us look into the concept of identity. What is an identity? In logic, the law of identity is the first of the three classical laws of thought. It states that each thing is the same with itself and different from another. The law of identity states that A is an apple, and in other words, it is what it is. We identify an apple. A is an A, and apple is an apple. So in other words, something is what it is. If something exists, it has nature and essence. For example, a book has a front and back cover with pages. A car has four wheels, seats, doors, windows, etc. That's how we identify a car. A tree we identify by its branches, leaves, trunks, and roots. This also means that anything that exists has characteristics. We recognize what something is by observing its characteristic. We know that a tree is a tree because you see its branches, its leaves, trunks, etc. We have seen that earlier. Furthermore, if something has an identity, it has a single identity. It does not have more than one identity. In other words, if something exists, it has a set of attributes that are consistent with its own existence. It does not have a set of attributes that are inconsistent with itself. Therefore, we can easily conclude that a cat is not a parachute. No, it is not laughable. You know that a cat is not a parachute because it has an identity or significance or characteristic of a cat, and a parachute has got different set of attributes which a parachute has, and a cat does not have the attributes of a parachute. An apple is not a race car. Similarly, a tree is not a movie because they have their own set of characteristics and not the characteristics of another. The above law of logic about identity is fairly clear to us. And what it has to do with spirituality or religion. We have a long tradition of repeating holy names in the form of prayer. We consider the name of God as holy. Praising or chanting the name of God is a special form of prayer. In many religions, excellence of chanting the name of God lies in mystic syllables which invoke God's purity and sovereign power. In the Jewish tradition, God's holy name is considered too holy and to be uttered by human tongue, so that they should not defile it. In the Hindu tradition, in Bhakti Yoga, the belief is the utterance of Lord's name destroys all the sins. If you repeat the name of the God, then it destroys all the sins. That is, expression of devotion in Hindu religious ethos is therefore Nama Sankirtana. This is called Nama Sankirtana, or recitation of God's name, collective or individually. You recite the name of God. And what is the theory behind this? The theory is that our mind is like an unsteady boat which bumps up and down in an ocean and is dragged here and there. So we need a symbol to hold on to anchor our mind, to concentrate. The Lord's name serves as a symbol. Reciting Lord's name, repeating them in a certain rhythmic pattern. We use name as a form of identity. God's name is termed as holy. These are not only things we name, we identify our feelings, emotions, etc. by names. Not only the thing or God, but we identify our own emotions and feelings by name. So let us look into what J.Krishnamurty says about it. Why do we name a feeling? Why do we term a reaction as anger, jealousy, or as arrogance, as hate, and so on? Do we term it in order to understand it, or we term it to recognize it, or to communicate it? Why do we do that? Is the feeling independent of the name or a term, or do we understand the term or a name? If you understand the feeling through the term and the word, the name becomes so important, not the actual feeling. Is it possible not to name the feeling? If it is, then what happens to the feeling? By terming, you entangle the feeling within the framework of reference, and so the living is caught in the net of time, which only strengthens memory. The me, what happens is a feeling, but we identify ourselves with a name. Do we give response to the name or the term or the actual feeling? Does it come to an end, this naming, or does it wither away, the feelings or the name? Experiment with this and discover for yourself. Any response to a challenge comes to an end when you do not name it or put it within the frame of reference. If you don't put anything without naming it, without putting it in the frame of reference, it slowly withers away. But if you give a name, a feeling as pleasant, say pleasant, then the pleasurable feeling arises when you name it. Or is the actual pleasure different from the name? If you don't name it, it will slowly wither away. Whether it is pain or pleasure, it will slowly wither away. And if we are not absorbed in the terms of reference. This is by J.Krishnamurty, of course my own wordings and interpretation of it, not his actual words. It's a key thing to understand what J. Krishnamurty said is a key thing to understand pleasure and painful responses. And here we will look into a story, a Japanese story, a Zen story, Great Waves. There was a great wrestler named Onami. Onami means great waves. Onami is a great wrestler in Japan. During his time, he was immensely strong, and also he knew the technicality. He has mastered the technicality and art of wrestling. He in his school, in the private boards, he won everyone. His own teacher, he could defeat him. He could defeat his own teacher easily, and the students, his own students or companions, were no match for him. His co-wrestlers he could easily defeat. But he had a problem. He was so shy of public people and so bashful that anybody in public could beat him easily. Even a novice could beat him easily. His own companions, masters, everybody beat him up in the public matches because he was shy of public. So Onami wanted to get away from this problem. Otherwise, his total life and wrestling career was in jeopardy. He thought he will go to a master Buddhist monk and find out a solution from them, because others, his own master, his own teacher, wrestling teacher, could not cure him of this problem. So a Buddhist monk named Hakuju was coming to a Buddhist temple nearby. Onami went there, met him and told him of his problem. The Buddhist monk told him, stay here tonight and meditate on the waves. Your name is a great wave. You identify yourself with the great waves. The waves, let them be your meditation point throughout tonight. After this, you will no longer be afraid. With this, he retired for the night. The monk retired for the night. Onami sat there near the Buddha statue in the temple and began to meditate. He imagined himself as a wave sweeping everything. Initially, there were many other thoughts which hampered his meditation, but finally he could identify himself as a wave sweeping through the things, flower waves and other things in the monastery, in the temple where he was meditating. Slowly his intensity of meditation became so strong that he felt that he was a huge wave, a series of waves that submerged everything, even the Buddha statue and himself in it. And by the early morning, his meditation was so intense that he felt the whole temple and the town was submerged in water. So the waves became larger and larger and submerged everything. In the morning, when the monk came and saw Onami, the wrestler, deeply in meditation with a fine smile on his lips, so he understood Onami has achieved what he sat there. Then he woke him up and told him, now nothing could defeat you. Go and fight. You are the great wave and you will really be a great wave. So the same day Onami went for a match and he won. And from that day, no one in Japan could defeat him. And he was really a great ocean and master wrestler of his time. This story tells you how identity helps you in achieving your goals and at the same time limits you in many other things. So use it as a tool like other words which we have seen in our earlier episodes. We will continue our journey in discovering our life, about our life. So, thank you. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.